Welcome back, Billiken fans. It's Zach Miller and Peter Hale. This is the Midtown Madness Podcast. Before we get going, if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. This episode and the whole season of the Midtown Madness Podcast is brought to you by Two Men in a Garden. Whether you like it mild or hot, chunky or cantina style, the people over at Two Men have you covered. I know what you're asking, Zach. Why Two Men in a Garden? Well, they're a 100% St. Louis company. And not only are they local, but they've opened up their production facility to local food entrepreneurs. They love this city the way I do. You can pick up all their products at any local grocery stores or online at twomeninthegarden.com. Follow them on social media at Two Men Salsa on Instagram and Twitter. Billiken fans, stay tuned. Later in the episode, we're going to do a couple cool little segments. We're going to do what our wish list is for our Christmas wish list. And then we're also going to do Billiken gifts for the Billiken fan that has everything. So stay tuned to that. It's going to be fun. As you know, we love merchandise on this show. So we both did a little bit of deep dive. Some stuff we probably shown before, some stuff we haven't, but stay tuned for that. Peter, I am so glad that we don't have to get on here and bemoan another loss.
You were worried about it too. I could tell your tweets, your energy through that game, that Drake game. I thought, oh, we got to win this one, if for no other reason for Zach.
Oh God, it just wasn't fun. Like it was entertaining for like the first 10 minutes of the game where we're making shots, still not liking the defense. I looked at it. I was like, look, this is what it should have been like. Like we should have been up 15-0 on Boise State. This is how if we come out and shoot like we can against Boise and play offense like we can, we're up 15-0 in the first 5 minutes. So it's like, it's one of those things where, but the defense wasn't there, and it was entertaining, but it wasn't fun at that point. And then it gets less fun throughout the rest of the half, and then into the second half, and it's just not fun. I don't know how else to describe it. It's just tough to sit through.
Yeah, I understand. And since we're already getting into it, let's get into it. We're referring to SIUE men's basketball's 83-75 win over Drake on Saturday the 17th. My first note here to mess with you was this was never really in question, was it? But I guess we've probably already spoiled the fact, which isn't a spoiler because the game already happened, that this game was in question from the jump.
I think pretty much everybody on the board except for sign guy Steve Rogers thought this one was over. I mean, Drake is up 8 with 6 minutes to go at one point, and it just seemed, again, like I tweeted out, every time the Billikens would claw their way within 1 or 2, we'd turn the ball over, take a bad shot, not get we'd get a stop. And then, an offensive rebound would ensue for Drake, which another thing, we talked about it a little bit. Like, honestly, I was shocked when I learned they had like 4 offensive rebounds in the first half. I thought like you said, I thought it was at least 4 on one play.
Yeah, it certainly felt like that. I thought it was, I thought I was going to see like a 7 or an 8. When I looked at the halftime box score, because I honestly wasn't following the box score all that closely in the first half. But when I looked at it and saw 4, I was like, that can't be right. Because I know at one point in the first half, I was thinking like, well, there's number 5. And I'm wondering if there are just plays where maybe we got possession and turned it over immediately, and it counted as a turnover, and maybe it felt like but man, it felt like way more than 4. What I noticed, Zach, on some of these in the first half, because I'm sitting there, because they really came early. Like we're both saying, I think it felt like these were front loaded. Like started the game and it was like, oh no, there's that offensive rebounding thing, or from our perspective, defensive rebounding issue again. And it just felt like 2 things are happening. Like they kind of get caught watching. which feels like a grade school thing almost, where you're just like, guys, go get the ball. Like there are opportunities to grab the ball. I mean, there were rebounds that bounced once or twice, and you're
It
just
was
like,
the smallest guy on the court getting it too.
Get there. Exactly.
Yeah.
And then number two is a lot of times we kind of overcommit to blocking the shot or forcing a more difficult shot. Sometimes they would have a guy come in for a layup from the right, and Okoro and then the help defender both crash, and then there's nobody on the weak side for when it bounces off the rim and goes to the other side or off the backboard or whatever. There's nobody there. Ball bounces and a Drake guard winds up with it, and they reset the offense. And it was strange because I think that did happen a lot in some of our previous games as well. And those seems like very easy things to clean up from my perspective.
Yeah, and it seems like we get out. I want to call it out fundamental on the defensive boards. Like I mean, and also on the offensive boards too. We're getting just completely blocked out in the most fundamentally sound way possible, and that was. We saw it again. I mean, it's frustrating to kind of watch Okoro just kind of jump and reach his hand up.
Right.
It's weird. Like, I feel like we're not getting position ever. We're never in position. Our rebounds are usually when nobody has position.
Yeah, it kind of does feel like that, doesn't it? But and yet we finished this game to keep it on rebounding. We finished this game 43 rebounds to Drake 30, and we have 11 offensive boards to their 6.
When Peter, when did that happen? Because that wasn't the game I watched.
It's so weird. And then like Francis Okoro finishes with 15 of those. Mm-hmm. And it was just like, what? I mean, or do we have that many rebounding opportunities where it feels like we're not rebounding well, and yet we end up plus 13 on the boards? Just a really strange it's the box score not meeting what we just watched at all, and maybe we're letting our emotions get the best of us, or we're getting too hung up on a narrative or something. I don't understand it at all, but on paper that was a good rebounding game.
Yeah, I don't get it. I really don't. I mean, maybe it's that proximity bias that I like to talk about a lot, where you just are paying so close attention to your own team that you see all the warts, right?
Yeah. Totally.
This was an interesting one on the scoring end because we scored really, really well. The offense was there. All 5 starters finishing double figures in this one.
Jimerson 17, Collins 17, Pickett 15, Perkins 13, Okoro 10. And I think that's the first time this season we've seen that happen, where all 5 of them scoring double figures. I think so. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we did against somebody. I don't know. I think that's it. Without looking it up. It wasn't necessarily the most like convincing scoring night from anybody individually. I mean, like Jimerson had 17, but he was 1 for 6 from 3. So it kind of felt like he was off. And that was a more, a lot of his points came on those backdoor cuts, where Yuri's finding him streaking to the basket. He was 4 of 4 from the free throw line. So it was kind of a quiet 17 from Jimerson. Yuri was a little bit better. He took all 6 of his 3-point attempts in the first half. It felt like he took them all in a row.
He did. I think he actually did.
Yeah, he hit 2 of those in a row. I mean, I swear all 6 of those were in like a very brief period. So he also wound up with 17. Pickett was the one where it felt like he wasn't having a great game, but he got to the line so much and went 8 of 9 that he winds up with 15. So it was a weird night in that, like, and Perkins is another one. Like, most of his points came in the first half. He hit a couple threes early. He had 8 points. He had like 8 of our first 12 or 8 of our first 10 or something like that. And it felt like, okay, he's, maybe he's getting back in form. This looks good. And then he was pretty quiet after that. So it's so weird to have all 5 starters score in double figures and not feel like any of them really stood out.
Yeah, you mentioned Jimerson, and Jimerson becomes the 34th player to reach 1,000 points on the same day he graduated, no less. A fifth year sophomore or something. I don't even know.
No, this is his fourth year. So he's doing it in one semester early. He got his BS in international business, I believe.
One thing about Jimerson in this game is you mentioned he had, an off night shooting the ball. And I really would love to see both Yuri Collins and Jimerson both recognize an N4 to some extent, but I think it's quicker for Jimerson to realize himself that he's maybe having an off shooting night, and him and Yuri get on the same page. Like, we're gonna start back cutting. Like, I don't have it tonight. We're gonna try to get that, because they have to overcommit on Jimerson. They have to.
They do, although like I think he is the level of shooter where I don't ever want to see him like abandon it, unless he's just like completely got the yips or something. Like I don't want to see him completely ditch his shot, but I do agree that maybe he recognizes like, all right, I've got to find it. It's going to take a little time, and in the meantime, let's get cooking another way. And I'm going to make I'm gonna cut inside a little bit more rather than just kind of wander the perimeter or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't disagree with that.
And one guy we don't necessarily love to see shooting his way out of missed shots is Yuri Collins. And I thought his shot selection in this one was nice. They were clearly going under the screen. Clearly, Yuri, you're gonna beat us shooting the ball. That was kind of I guess the way they played him. And I thought the only one I didn't like was one where he had about 5 seconds to shoot it. He gathers, and it like you could just tell his feet were just all over the place, and you're like, dude, why? Like, there's 15 seconds on the shot clock.
He wound up being so open on that one that it's like, he almost couldn't not take it. It's kind of like you could see it going through his head, because you're right, his feet did kind of skip a little bit because he's like he's gonna move, and then it was like, oh no, I'm just gonna kind of get him set and take a shot here, where he had so much time. And I don't know, I feel like those never go in when a guy is not shooting in any rhythm whatsoever, who's not just a natural shooter. I knew he was gonna miss that one. He did have another where there was a little bit of a heat check, because of his 2 of 6, they were back-to-back shots, right? I mean, he missed his first 1 or 2, then he hit 2 and then missed the next couple. So one of those was kind of a little bit of, at least one of them was a little bit of a heat check. But more promising to me is that he had 9 assists and 1 turnover in this one. So he's kind of starting to get back into form there after a couple of games where his turnovers were high and his assists were low.
Not a lot of defense was played in this one, Pete. You talk about turnovers. I mean, early in the game, we weren't stopping Drake, and Drake wasn't stopping us. I thought the only time defense really came into play was there at the end. The Billikens turned up the heat. I believe they switched to zone, which I thought was kind of a bold move. Drake had been shooting the ball well, and we hadn't been rebounding it well to go along with it. So those are two. It kind of, I thought it flew in the face of conventional thinking.
It did, and I wonder, because to me, I almost felt like the energy of the game changing. I don't know exactly when the switch flipped. Ford made reference in his post-game comments to guys not saying the typical things when they enter the huddle on the last couple media timeouts. And he was like, all of a sudden it was like their energy just turned up. And somebody on Twitter, I don't know if it was Jack or who, but somebody said they thought it was the play where Javonte hit the deck for a loose ball. And we went to a media shortly. It might've been like the under 8 media. And from there on out, like our energy level just popped way up. And it was it's kind of, I don't know. I try to avoid reading too much into things like body language, but it's a thought I had several games ago. And since then I've like at least 3 or 4 people whose opinions I respect have said the exact same thing, that like the body language looks off in this game or that game or lately. And all of a sudden in the home stretch of this game, is SLU just kind of like snapped out of whatever the funk was. It almost felt like there's just been a malaise hanging over this program. The Iona game, the Boise State game, and really most of this game, 3/4 of this game, it kind of felt like that.
Seasonal depression.
Call it what you will. I don't know, man. I really don't know. But all of a sudden it was just like, oh, there's that energy. And like they're playing hard. They're making plays. They're chasing rebounds. They're chasing loose balls. They're moving on offense. And things just started clicking, you know? And if you look at the last 4 minutes of this game, everything suddenly breaks right. Drake missed some shots. They actually did not make a field goal after, I think it was 4:05 was their last one in the game. So under 4 media timeout, they've got no more. I think they made a pair of free throws and that was it the rest of the game. SLU did get a couple calls. They didn't get punished for every mistake they made, you know, a couple turnovers, whatever, down the stretch. And they made their free throws in this one, 21 of 23 on the game. And it's just, I think the point I made to you and somebody else on text was just like, it's almost as if when you play hard, good things happen. Like it seems so obvious, but it really, like, in front of my eyes, that's what I was seeing. That's what it felt like. And you're nodding along. It feels like maybe the energy in the building was the same way. I could hear the crowd.
The vibes change, the good vibes. Right. And I want to get into that because as much as it's become kind of a show meme, shout out Carter Chapley. I think that there are vibes and there's energy and I think this is where I start to put things on Travis Ford. I think he certainly deserves credit for everything that happened in that game. I think the switch to zone, absolutely coaching. That was great move. He outcoached DeVries in the second half.
Yeah.
But what I really liked from Travis, and this is the credit I'm giving him in this one, was his sideline demeanor. He was so much more composed. I thought it was most notable towards the officials, but he only had a couple of goofy outbursts towards players that he kind of has. One was Fred, and I don't remember why, but I'm assuming it was defensive. And then one was Hargrove, which was obviously defensive, where Hargrove lost his man and Travis ended up spinning around and mocking kind of his defense and his or lack thereof. I don't know if you saw the same thing because given that you know, watching on TV, but man, like I really wonder how much of the vibes and the energy around this team is sometimes, you know, kind of influenced by Travis's ability to get worked up at officials, worked up at his players.
So you've really been zeroed in on that lately in a way that I haven't as much. I mean, I know, you know, it does seem like in the Iona game and a couple other games where you could see it getting out of hand and his demeanor really, it seems unhelpful if he's just too fired up. It's interesting because there was that article earlier in the season where he was saying the energy that I show on the sideline, I want to see matched. I want to see you guys at a high energy level, but I think we need to delineate between what's productive energy and what's unproductive energy. And I did not see that as much. I wasn't watching him as much necessarily. It's a little tougher to watch if if he's not on screen at the time. Not all of that stuff gets picked up. And, you know, every once in a while you see it like when they're going to commercial and they show a reaction shot or something like that. But part of the demeanor was he was handling his players differently in this one. Like a lot of times when we talk about his demeanor on the sidelines and having a short fuse, he'll overreact to a mistake or something by a player and yank him, you know, and we've been talking about that this season, especially like how he's managing the minutes of his bigs. But in this game, we saw him playing Okoro and Forrester, I guess, to give Okoro longer breaks and everything. They were playing just like we said last episode for longer stretches. And to my eye, and it looks like in the score sheet as well, that seemed to benefit both of them. I mean, it seemed like Okoro really got in a rhythm. He wasn't beating himself up on the bench after making a mistake. Same for Forrester. who, didn't have necessarily a game you would call out in this one or anything. He was fine. He only played 9 minutes, but I just thought that was a really nice game from Franco, playing 30 minutes, a good end-to-end effort after he's had some really up and down performances this season. And so I think that's one element where Ford's demeanor was a lot more patient in this game. And to me, that must go hand in hand. If you're seeing a more calm version of him, and we're also seeing him show a lot more patience with his players on the floor, it's got to be related.
Yeah, I think in a lot of ways, and we're going to get into it on the wish list segment. At least I have it in my notes this way, is that I want to see more. I think Travis is a better coach when he is handling his rotation, his subs, positively and not necessarily negatively. And what I mean by that is that he's subbing out because, again, how does this sub make us better on the floor? How does it improve from where we're at? If it's a sub for, say, Drake goes on a 5-point run, I'm not subbing out Hargrove because he screwed up on defense. I'm subbing out Hargrove for Thatch or Hargrove for Perkins because they're better at scoring and defense. You know what I mean? So I want to see, I just feel like, again, he did a great job in this game of leaving Franco out there, leaving Perkins out there, and we're going to get to that. But I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with that. And specifically, I was thinking about Jimerson in this one, because Jimerson winds up playing 39 minutes in this game. And what was kind of interesting to me is there were stretches where he was getting burned on defense. I mean, they were for a while picking on him, taking it at him. And then there were also stretches, we already talked about his 3-point shooting, going 1 for 6. It's not intuitive to go, that's a guy I'm not taking out of this game, which he essentially didn't, because there are 2 pretty glaring reasons why you might otherwise take him out. So it was really just sort of trusting your rotation guys in this one. I like Hargrove. If we're talking about another guy who can kind of be a super sub, who can come in, give you some good minutes, play with some energy, I think that's exactly what he did, especially in his first shift in this game in the first half, when the rest of the team looked a little lethargic. I thought he was a nice shot of energy into the game. So I think that maybe he's just getting a little bit more trusting of his roster. And I'm kind of interested to hear your thoughts on how he played Perkins in this one, and maybe how that relates to some of what we heard him say after the game.
I swear to God, we spend too much time talking, because you knew exactly what I was thinking there. Because I want to say that, look, I got on Twitter, and I mean, fair play. Like, I was frustrated, annoyed, not having fun. But looking back on it now, and thanks to Rammer for kind of pointing this out in a way, and not calling us out, but just kind of asking questions, asking the tough questions. I said, leaving Perkins on that stretch when Drake went on the run was unacceptable, leaving him on the bench. And Rammer said, well, how many minutes did you want him to play? And you know what? I was reacting to Ford's handling of Perkins or Coro in previous games and the way he would sub them in and out. Mm-hmm. I wasn't reacting to what Ford was doing in this game, which was he left Perkins in there early. Perkins is still coming back from, he's still coming back to fitness. Yeah, that makes total sense that he left him out. He left him on the bench. So I was thinking Ford had lost him on the bench, but in reality, it may have just been that, minute management, and that's kind of, that's kind of the deal.
Perkins played 25 minutes in this game. That seems good. That seems good. That's the most minutes he's played since Providence on the 20th of November. So about 4 weeks. Since then, he's only broken 20 minutes twice. Paul Quinn and Tennessee State, single digit minutes against SIUE and Boise State. I think 25 minutes is a good load for him at this point. He played well. He looked good when he was in there. He didn't look hobbled or anything like that. But yeah, when you made that point, it was kind of like, I think it really, we weren't playing well at that point in the game. And so he's a guy who looked good coming out of the gate in this game. And then you go, yeah, where is he? So to me, like when I see you tweet that, it was like, it felt kind of, it made sense to me.
It was correct in the moment, but
we're thinking about like a larger context. And then you go back and like look at this game, and it was like, yeah, okay, 25 minutes is about right. The result was right. He came back in after that and played a good bit down the stretch, and was fine. So it all worked out. But yeah, in the moment, I totally see what you mean. There was some other kind of quirks of this game that we've talked about before. Our inability to force turnovers. Drake has 0 first half turnovers. 0. That was glaring to me when I was looking at that halftime box score, trying to figure out where all their offensive rebounds were. Final turnovers wound up being SLU 7, Drake 6, which is just it's a really low, impressive number for both teams. But
was it impressive for the offense, or indicative of just brutal defensive efforts?
That's that's a fair question. I've got to look up where we stand in terms of forcing turnovers nationally, because it's never stood out to me like this in a season before. I thought that was kind of very interesting.
Let's dive head first into Ford's comments on Perkins in this one. And I wonder, honestly, like, obviously Perkins is the guy. Perkins is the star of this team, that's not named Yuri Collins, he's supposed to be the guy, like the go-to scorer. And I wonder, because people are going to ask about Perkins. That's why he singled out Perkins on this one. I don't know if Ford talked to the rest of the guys too in the same manner individually. Like, I could see, like, Okoro, he did the same thing with and Okoro comes out on fire. Does Ford have that conversation with Okoro, and Okoro relaxes? That's one of those things where, again, it's not considered in-game coaching, but it's enabling your players to feel more comfortable on the court, and maybe give them a little more leeway, obviously, to make mistakes, and they're not tensing up as much.
So specifically, you're referring to his comments where he said of Perkins that if Ford said, it's my fault, it's on me, I mismanaged this. I can't remember exactly how he said it, but it was along the lines of not showing enough faith or trust or whatever in Javonte, and he took the blame, because like I just said, Perkins played 6 minutes against Boise State. I think he played 8 minutes against SIUE. Hasn't been playing much lately, and Ford took the blame. He seemed exasperated earlier this week when he said in the media that they tell me he's 100%. He says he's 100%. His doctors say he's 100%. Ford almost seemed like, I don't know what you want me to do. Like, he seemed exasperated. But I think it just kind of came to a head where he either needed to say, this guy, last year was the conference preseason player of the year. We know what he's capable of. We have a ton of confidence in what he can do, and I need to show that confidence, or we need to have a difficult conversation, because I don't think he's ready or productive enough out there. And it seems like he chose the former and said, this is our guy. We're going to show faith in him, and we're going to, maybe we're not going to play him 35 minutes, but we're certainly going to start him, play him good minutes, and let him do his thing out there. And it seems like that paid off in this game.
Yeah, and again, I was super happy to hear the way he talked about it, and I think he kind of admitted, I think he kind of threw up a mea culpa that, hey, fans might be right here, because there's not a doubt in my mind that he is following exactly what the fans say, just from what I've seen in his interviews and on Twitter. there's no longer a doubt in my mind.
Where he at least hears the larger conversation from, like, the noise gets back to you, like, and if there are themes emerging, like, where's Javonte? It's almost like we just saw in the World Cup with Greg Berhalter, like, right. After a while, people are like, why isn't Gio Reyna playing? Or like, why don't you include this guy on the roster? And some of those things actually come to happen when it seems like they're not going to. It does seem like there are some elements of the larger, I don't know, media and fan conversation that seems to be at least getting through in a way that is, some, maybe he sees truth in it, and that's,
and you could see it in the way he tweeted after the game too. I mean,
yeah,
it was, I mean, the next day, like, that was a lot of people questioning the effort, questioning the grit,
right,
questioning the determination, and what they showed in that last 5 to 8 minutes. So I give them all the credit in the world for doing what they needed to do to get the job done.
Two aggressive, very active, and relentless effort players. Fred and Francis define toughness. That's a picture of Thatch and Okoro celebrating after the game. And then great win for Team Blue last night. Love the toughness, grit we showed in the last 4 minutes. That's the relentless effort we need for 40 minutes. Big time crowd, great energy in Chaffetz Arena. Huge thanks to our loyal fans for your effort and loyalty to the Billikens. Team victory. I mean, that's pretty on the nose.
Well, you know what? I had a thought like today. I was thinking about it because Team Blue, I went after Team Blue. I really did. And that's like, I feel like the team, like, the program needed that to be said. Like, it needed to be in the conversation, at least not by me, but by other people. Like, but it's just like, that's what the culture has to be, is that defense, that relentless defense. If that's what it is, I want to see that consistently.
Yeah.
It's, but yeah, again, the couple of weird things about this game. This was the 84th game against Drake. And unbelievably, the first since 86, 87, before I was born, sir.
A little after I was born, but we were supposed to play them last year in that game in Vegas that wound up getting canceled due to COVID. But this is, so according to SIUE historians, this is the team we've played more than any other in program history, and yet we haven't played them since 1987. Or probably 86 in that season. I'm not sure if it was, which side of the calendar we played them on.
Because what conference were we in?
Oh God, at that time,
that's the point. Like, it doesn't. Yeah.
So anyway, it's kind of interesting to reignite this series. I'm sure there are not many fans. I mean, I'm going on 40, so there can't be many fans under the age of 60 who would actually think of this in terms of like an old rivalry. So certainly it's really our older fans who would remember it as such. Some of those old Valley teams that we used to play all the time. There was an odd thing, and they've taken this for some reason out of the archives right now. We don't have the section at the end of the media guide where it tells you our all-time record against a certain program. Like, it has our season by season history, but I think they're redoing it or something like that, where it has every school that we've ever played listed, our record, and then at each result. Drake was the team, like I said, this is the 84th time, but there was another one where Oklahoma State and Oklahoma A&M, which are the same school.
This is my favorite thing. This is my favorite
were listed
thing ever.
Separately.
Yeah.
But if you added those up, it actually added up to more times than we've played Drake. But I think there's a chance some of those were double counted because of the school changing names. So maybe that's one of the things that they're changing. So I was trying to verify that and having kind of a hard time doing it, because I remember that specifically from previous years. I think actually last year when I was like, we're going to play Drake, and somebody was like, yeah, we played them more than anybody. It's like, I don't think so, because Oklahoma State used to be.
We played them so freaking much.
There are teams, when you look back in our history and you're like, how have we played them like 80 times or whatever? There are teams we played 4 times a year. It's not like it is now where you would play a team 3 times at most, but
unless it's women's soccer in the middle of
the COVID year. That's right. And you get the home and home, you get the conference tournament, and then you get another fluke game.
Yeah.
But yeah, regardless, that was kind of unusual. But there was something even weirder, Zach, that happened I
need people
halftime.
I need people to comment or tweet at us like if you notice this, because I don't know if anybody at home noticed it, because I wonder how many people notice it at home, because of course you have some delay on ESPN Plus. Most people are operating on streaming services, so there's a little bit more of a delay, and people in the arena may not be checking their phones at halftime. Well, they probably would be, but seeing the notification.
But right before halftime is when
right. Really. So what happens is when Hargrove fouls Tucker DeVries, a notification goes out from the ESPN app, and I'm going to shout out Arico here, Mike Arico. Tucker DeVries gets fouled, taking a 3-pointer by Hargrove. Mike Arico, who I was sitting next to, turns to me. He goes, the ESPN app just sent a notification, and this is before he even steps to the line, that it's halftime, and apparently, or it's like, and it's not including the free throws. And he's like, unless he missed all 3, and we're just not aware yet. And I mean, just unbelievable. Our section was going absolutely nuts
after he missed them.
Yeah, I don't know. Illuminati confirmed, Peter. I don't really know how else to describe what I witnessed there, but it was about the wildest just set of circumstances I think I've seen at a Billiken game since we scored 20 points.
So I don't have those notifications set, but what is true is when I'm at home watching a game and I've got my, laptop open and I'm watching the ESPN Plus stream, the box score, the live stats on StatCast are about 30 seconds, maybe more, ahead of the game broadcast. Sometimes it's like up to a minute. So like a lot of times I'm going, okay, Yuri misses this 3, but we get an offensive rebound and there's a foul. Like I know what's going to happen on a play. If I try not to do that because it drives me crazy. And at the end of a game, I'll just close my laptop.
Oh yeah.
But because they had they were listed first, right, on the box score. Yeah, that's another thing about the StatCast is the team on the left, the road team, is always listed first. So Drake was showing as 41 for a really long time, and I hadn't brought up the box score. I must have had like Twitter or something else open, and I could see on the tab Drake 41, but then I saw him get fouled shooting the 3, and I was like, man, do they go to the videos? Because sometimes there's like a delay or something before they take place, but it kept showing. I kept seeing 41, 41, 41, and then he missed all 3 free throws. So from my perspective, it was more like I knew that he was going to miss them just because that number never switched, or I honestly thought there may have been an issue. But it's crazy that happened in the arena live, you guys getting notified of halftime before it's actually halftime.
I wonder how those go out. I wonder, like, is that I'm assuming that's like a rogue. I mean, it's not BK. It's obviously not BK.
Right.
It's got to be like a scorekeeper that's automatically uploaded to ESPN, and they just called it. Like, I don't know how those notifications go out.
But it's weird because you would think that the clock is what triggers that, and the clock wasn't perfectly at 0. It's not like it was I don't know. It wasn't 0. It didn't happen like as the ball was in the air and then somebody just like trucked into him or something.
But then again, it's always interesting when you're watching, like, and it's more pronounced with the NHL than it is with Billiken basketball, at least, because I don't get notifications for anybody other than the Billikens. they like it, as soon as the national anthem starts playing, without fail, that's when I get the tip off notification for ESPN. So there's always a weird, like, and with the Blues, it's always right at 7.
Right.
So I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the time given for that game time or whatever. I don't know. But regardless, it was a wild time there at the end of the half.
Right.
I was at the end of the half, I was not sure where this game was headed. I did not like where it was headed, Pete.
No. No, certainly not. But going into halftime down 1 instead of down 4 was a much better outcome.
Next up, the Billikens have SIUE on the 21st. Is this are we worried? Are we like, I mean, is this a landmine?
I mean, if you're looking for things to worry about, there might be some of those, but this is a team that we should handle. I mean, it really is. You know, they do some of the things that I think is not an ideal matchup for SLU for a bye game. But again, I mean, you got to beat a team like this by double figures. There's no question about that. So SIUE is 8-4. They've got wins over 3 lower division teams, including Harissa, St. Ambrose, and Illinois Tech just this weekend. The other 5 wins are over Fairleigh Dickinson, VMI, Longwood. Those 3 were actually part of a tournament held out at Longwood that SIUE won. And then Kansas City and Troy are the other ones. Their losses are to Purdue, Fort Wayne, Mizzou, Bradley, Illinois State. So for the most part, they've kind of beaten the teams they should, lost to the teams that they should. But honestly, SIUE's never won more than 12 games since joining D1, and they're definitely going to do it this season. They're much improved. Some people think they have a shot to win the Ohio Valley. They've got some local talent on the roster. They've got Rayshawn Taylor. A lot of people recognize that game. Out of Collinsville, Jalen Hodge from O'Fallon, and Cam Williams, who went to Hazelwood Central. Taylor is their leading scorer, but they do have 5 guys who average double figures. They're all between 10 and 13.5 points per game. And Zach, here we go again. They're not a great 3-point shooting team. They only shoot a little under 20 a game, and they make about 32% of them. So not the worst, but like, you know, it's not their bread and butter. They are a really good rebounding team, especially on the offensive glass. So that's something to really watch for in this game. They block a good amount of shots. They really force a lot of turnovers. They're near, right around the top 10% in the nation in that department. They do manage to draw a lot of fouls and get to the line a lot. They're a very good free throw shooting team. So given all of that, this team's just going to try and frustrate SLU in any way possible. Chasing offensive rebounds, putting a lot of pressure on Collins and our other ball handlers, pestering our bigs. It's just going to be one of these kind of annoying games. I could see this one being closer than it needs to be. This is a team that I think we're still going to beat. They don't scare me. That would be a disaster to lose to them. But this is going to be a frustrating game, I think. And the fact that it's I was just going to say the fact that it's a kind of local team puts just that added layer of pressure on SLU.
Rayshawn Taylor's their point guard, right? Is he a point guard?
Is he a point guard? Well,
because I was just thinking, like, I remember watching him play Hargrove in high school, and he came out looking fantastic in that Collinsville East St. Louis game. And I kind of wanted him to be a Billiken, and of course I was looking at him when, Collins decided to enter the portal, and just another guard. And I really like Rayshawn Taylor.
Yeah, I mean, he's just listed as a guard. I don't know if he's their lead guard or not. In terms of assists, he is second on the team. DeMarco Minor has more assists than him. He might be kind of the primary ball handler. They both have started every game. So they're the main 2 in the backcourt there. I would guess he's kind of more of a 2 guard. Yeah, just based on what I'm seeing on paper. but I don't know. It's not like it's not like Yuri Collins and whoever's lining up next to him. It's not that big a difference.
They should have some fans in the arena with all the local kids, and of course it'll be students will still be on break. So I'm assuming some people will come over from the east side.
Yeah, and they're also, as a heads up, they're running a promotion here where if you show your Schnucks rewards app, you actually get free admission. So go over to Gate B, just flash your Schnucks reward app and get into this one for free. And I think, Zach, the women's game is right before.
Yes, it is, 4 p.m. And I'm more of a Deerbergs guy, so
well,
I'm Schnucks rewards. Actually, I think I do have Schnucks rewards, honestly.
Funny enough. I mean, I probably will download it just so.
You're coming into town. I forgot.
Yeah, I'm going to be in town for this one. So,
God.
So I don't know if I'll have my kids with me or not. They might stay home with their grandparents and go to bed. But regardless, I will be in the house for this one. And yeah, the women, they play Southern Illinois, the other Southern Illinois, Carbondale at 4. So yeah, and you could be in Chaffetz for something like 5 hours.
Supposedly they're gonna the tickets are low, I guess. I'm assuming people back it. The Christmas game always seems to be a well-attended game outside of students. Mm-hmm. But I think I think a lot of that are probably just anticipating freebies and the Schnucks reward thing. So
yeah, maybe it's low outside of what they have allocated, they expect for that. Yeah. I mean, once people hear it on this podcast, it'll probably be a line down Compton.
Pete, around the A10, Tuesday the 13th, George Washington 83, Coppin State 71. A shocker in I think it was at Rhode Island. Rhode Island beats UMass Lowell 77-75. UMass Lowell has kind of been the A10 killer of the mid-majors.
They're the flagship now, having beat UMass Amherst.
That the flag is flying at half mast now that both teams are not good. Richmond 77, Fairleigh Dickinson 48. Pete, I was having a serious moment watching this game, and I was spamming the text thread.
Yeah,
everybody needs to get over, and I was getting no response, which is
I think when I could feel my phone buzzing, and I think I had I was giving one of my kids a bath or something like that, and I was like, I'm not going to turn on the Richmond game right now. I just can't. But they did have 9 in the first half, so I think it was warranted. I think your warnings were on point.
Wednesday the 14th, Jack Raboyne's Radford squad drops a 70-62 game to VCU. Duquesne beats DePaul 66-55. On Friday the 16th, Dunk City, Florida Gulf Coast beats St. Bonaventure 71-58. Saturday, Purdue, 8-point win over Davidson. Number 1 Purdue.
Undefeated.
Davidson hold on tight with the Boilermakers in this one.
Yeah, Davidson gave them everything they had. I mean, this is not on paper a favorable matchup for Davidson at all. Defending a guy like Zach Edey down low, and really gritty performance by the Wildcats.
Cincinnati 78, LaSalle 60. And I don't know if you saw this, but pizza was not served at the Cincinnati arena for this one. I don't know why. I just saw it was on the No Context College Basketball. I guess the arena tweeted out that there was no pizza for sale.
Oh God.
Yeah.
As long as they had Skyline chili still available.
Two things that would just screw up my stomach. Duquesne 92, Indiana State 86. The Mean Green of North Texas 62, UMass 44. UMass comes down to earth.
They really have. Yeah, good start, but man, that's a big gap there.
George Mason 62, Tulane 56. BCU 90, Northern Illinois 63. Villanova, not a Villanova team you expect 71-64 over St. Joe's.
Yeah, another tough performance. I mean, like those Philly 5 games are always battles, but this is not the St. Joe's of like their heyday, 15, 20 years ago, and this is not the Villanova of their heyday of more recent years, but credit to St. Joe's for giving them a battle in this one.
Saturday the 17th, Clemson 85, Richmond 57. Pete, this next game was probably contributing to my foul attitude during the game because I was kind of seeing on Twitter the score updates as I would check it intermittently. And Dayton beats Wyoming 66-49. As the Billikens are losing, Dayton is pulling away from Wyoming, and it did not put me in a good headspace.
The way Dayton had a really good first half in this one, and there was a stretch in the second half where Wyoming closed it a little bit, and I kind of thought like, oh, wouldn't it be funny if both of these leads switch? And SIUE grabs the win from Drake, and Wyoming grabs the win from Dayton. I only got 1 out of 2. It's the one that's more important. I'm totally fine with the result, and honestly, it's probably better to have Dayton win that game for purposes of our conference and our numbers, our strength of schedule, and all that. But it's hard not to root against Dayton at the same time. But yeah, that was a pretty good win from them, and that was, oddly enough, that was played in the United Center in Chicago.
Sunday,
which was not very full for that game.
No, I can't. I mean, well, hey, I thought Dayton had a big Chicago presence. What's up, Sully?
Yeah, lower bowl, but that's a 20,000 seat arena.
Sully moved out of Chicago too, so that's why nobody was at that game, because Sully would have been the only one. Sunday, the day we're recording this, Loyola 68, Albany 56. Georgia State hosted Rhode Island and beat them to the tune of a 75-66 result. Man, I almost feel the same way about Rhode Island as I do watching, oh God, who am I thinking of now? The Louisville Cardinals. Like, how does this team turn around? Like, Rhode Island's been that bad that, like, how do you, like, if you're that bad in the first year, like, you should at least pull out some wins.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, Georgia State's not bad. I think they've, I'm trying to look. Yeah, they're 6-5 right now.
I forget that it's a massive school, by the way.
It is. It's in Atlanta. They have a new coach who was an assistant at Xavier, Hayes, who I like. Not Jarvis Hayes, but the other. He's got a brother, and I think Isaac? Jarvis is an assistant there. No, I think Jonas maybe. But they're not a bad team. They've got a couple bad losses that they'd probably like to have back. But I think that's a program that in that conference, in their conference, is actually going to be pretty decent in the Sun Belt, is what they're in. And I think they're going to be one of the better teams in that league for a while. So I don't know. Rhode Island's 4-8. They've got a new coach. Maybe, this season's just going to be not great.
The old them. Rick Majerus first season.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see who Archie Miller is. But yeah, out of the gate, they've not been great.
Pete, the trivia question of the week for last week. Go ahead. I'll give the question and we'll let you answer it and congratulate our winner. Yuri Collins is the 19th Billiken to receive the Missouri Athletic Club's Carl O. Bauer Award. Since its introduction in 1978, who was the first Billiken to receive the award?
First to receive it was Anthony Bonner in 1990. So even though we've had 19 different SIUE representatives win it since 1978, it did take a dozen years before we got one. And by the time we did, he was pretty much no doubter. Congrats to @BillikenBry, BRY, on Twitter for being the first one to get it right.
This week's question, Pete, when did SIUE play in front of the largest crowd in program history? Make sure you tweet at us or comment on YouTube with your answer. Pete, you know what brings a crowd, Pete, to your party? Two Men in the Garden.
As soon as I saw that the question had the word crowd in it, I knew you were going to play that crowd angle in one way or another. And yes, it does absolutely bring a crowd.
Not only your party, but your kitchen as well.
That's right. It does. It brings a party to my kitchen, which usually in my case is just two children pestering me to see whatever I'm snacking on. And the timing of my trip back to St. Louis this week, and the fact that I need to download that Schnucks Rewards app so I can get in that game on Wednesday night is really good timing, because I think I need to make a little trip and restock, because I just ran out of everything that I have bought from my most recent purchase from Two Men all over the place in St. Louis, and just about every local store I've gone into. I'm always looking for it just so I can shout out local retailers there. But staying with my parents this week, and they live basically across the street from that new not new, from the Schnucks in on Clayton, right there in Richmond Heights. That their new house is across the street from there. So I think I'll be making a trip over at some point, Zach. I'm going to use that rewards app to get in the game and get some credit here for that next salsa purchase that I'm going to make. And you can also, if you're not in St. Louis, order it online at twomeningarden.com.
Pete, moving over to the women's side of things, 83-71 loss at Memphis. And this one is just deflating as hell.
It really is. And how many times have we heard this? They're down at Memphis Saturday the 17th. They lead by 10 going into the fourth quarter. They lose by 12. Memphis outscored them 22-8 in the final frame. But it seems like this team, if you go back through their schedule and you just take out the worst quarter from any game, they've actually got a decent amount of wins this year. As it stands, they're 3-11. But whether it's the first or the second or the fourth or whatever quarter it is, it seems like there's one in a lot of close games they've had where they just completely lay an egg. And it's such a strange, I don't know, statistical anomaly, whatever you want to call it. When it's the fourth quarter, I think it's a little different, because that just kind of feels like lack of execution. Right. Right. Yeah. But when the fourth, when you're playing with a 10-point lead on the road, it just feels like, I don't know, you lose focus. You're not executing. You're making mistakes. Maybe it's the sign of a team that's playing together for the first time, new coach and everything. But yeah, man, that's so disheartening. 3-11, and it really feels like this team should have 5 or 6 wins.
Yeah. McMakin finished with 23, but it took 28 field goals attempted. Nicastro was solid off the bench, 13 points in 22 minutes. Sounds like she's growing into a role after coming off an injury. Flowers 8 and 6 with 3 blocks, got her 1,000th point in this game. Only player in program history with 1,000 points and 1,000 rebounds. Unbelievable career. I just think I still think she scratched the surface of her potential. They were out rebounded this one 49-31, just absolutely just dominated. Again, the one bad quarter, it seems to be the first or the fourth. Those are the ones that really haunt you when you don't start out well or you don't end well. Pete, next, like you mentioned earlier in the show, 4 p.m. start time at Shavitz Arena against SIU Carbondale. Then they'll take a week off before opening A-10 play on the 28th versus Loyola Chicago.
Yeah, and we haven't spent a ton of time on kind of the larger narrative around the women's team this year, because they're struggling, 3-11. But we will kind of do a quick rundown of kind of where the A-10 stands before we start A-10 play, to kind of give just a lay of the land. I think what we're going to see is SLU has played such a dramatically harder schedule than most, if not all, of the other teams in the league, that the record is going to improve. I mean, most of the teams they've played are going to be better than the teams that they're going to be facing in conference. So we should see things really start to even out with this team in terms of the record. Hopefully they can get into a little bit more of a rhythm. Hopefully they didn't exhaust themselves against such a brutal schedule where they were often playing 3 games a week against superior teams and they're going to see in conference. So I'm hoping all of those things kind of click together and that they can put together a kind of a maybe even a winning conference record. I don't know if that's a reach goal or not, but it definitely is possible because of the generally one bid nature of this league. So we will give kind of a broader update on the women's team before that Loyola game.
Pete, it's finally happened. We don't celebrate loss of jobs, firings, resignations. But this, it's kind of something it feels like we've just been waiting for the contract to expire.
Yeah. So this Kent Miller was fired as SLU head volleyball coach after 12 seasons. After SLU came in 5th in the league this season and then were eliminated in the first round of the conference tournament that SLU hosted. Miller finishes with a 181 and 166 record, which is good for the second most wins in program history. SLU didn't make the NCAA tournament once during his tenure in 12 seasons. The program last made it in 2009 as an at-large team, which is pretty impressive, by the way, after making it as the conference tournament champion in 2006 and 2008. Zach, the floor is yours. I want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, the last time when Kent Miller was hired, I was still in college. So I'm now 33. So it's been a long and arduous task to follow this team under Kent Miller. I mean, I think we kind of talked about it enough. I mean, finish it. I don't even know how to put it. Kent Miller's, he made a career of finishing 4th. I guess honestly, I don't even know. Like, I could see him just being done. Like, dude, after this, you clearly don't have the ear of, the young players or the ability to recruit the talent or identify the talent. I really have no idea. Because every year it was finish 4th, finish 3rd, bring in one serious impact attacking player, and then surround them with average to below average players. The passing was just never there on this team. Unforced errors galore in every time I'd watch them. Just absolutely not the results you'd expect from the resources put into the program. And yes, we can talk about the amount of money spent on coaching, on the staff, and on his salary. But again, with the arena you play in or the facilities you play in, you have got to do better than no NCAA tournaments in 12 years. And to be honest, I think 8 years was probably long enough. And I think 12 years was about 4 years too long. Unfortunately, again, sports is one of those things though with hirings and firings that if Kent Miller wants to stay in volleyball, he's going to stay in volleyball and make a lot of money doing it. So at the end of the day, look, Kent, I see you later. We got to find someone better. And what's Ann Cordes doing right now is my question.
Yeah, I mean, do you think I think she's in Louisville.
Yeah, I know she's in Louisville. She left SLU prior to Kent Miller arriving. She went to take a job at her alma mater of Louisville as the head coach. I don't know how many years she was there, but I know that after a while, she decided to have a family, 2 daughters, I believe. And as a single parent, she was a single parent. And being a college coach, it just does not match, especially with newborns and toddlers. I know both of her children are, of the age of being a sentient human being that can get their own food from the cabinets and whatnot, whatever. Kind of like the Kalish situation, right? Kalish left SIUE to have a family. After his kid, now, 12, 15 years later, whatever it was, since he left SIU, I think it was 12, 15. He takes a job at SLU because his kids are older now. Ands aren't quite as old as Kalish, but I don't know. I don't even think Chris May would entertain that idea, honestly. I think you call her. I mean, why not? See what's up. But yeah, I think with this one, I really hope they go down a different path than, well, you know what? I don't know. I want to see, Ann was an assistant at Illinois, right? Before hired over here. So I would like to see, and then you go with Kent Miller, who's the safe choice, the former head coach. So I think we're due for, again, kind of a Tillett-esque hire, but I want to see a little bit more of a splashy hire. And I want to see someone with St. Louis roots. Honestly, we've got a low-key, really nice volleyball culture here in St. Louis, high performance volleyball. I'm trying to think of the other ones off the top of my head, but they're not coming to me. Obviously the all girls high school scene here is top notch. St. Joe's, Incarnate, Narings. I think St. Louis ties is what I'm looking for here. Obviously Ann didn't have that, but she brought in a ton of Louisville players. She grabbed Barons from St. Louis. She grabbed Sally from St. Louis. She recruited the Midwest big time, and but that's what I want to see. I want to see somebody who can make inroads into the best players in St. Louis.
So basically, a St. Louis native or somebody with strong ties to the area, unless you can convince Ann Cordes to come back.
I thought, it's funny. I don't know why, but Whitney Barons was at now Whitney Small was at Incarnate Word. She was coaching varsity over there, and I don't know what happened. Something happened, and she ended up leaving there. It's a shame because, well, she's I think she's CEO of High Performance Volleyball now, or one of the clubs. If she had stayed in coaching, that's somebody I would have absolutely, the Ann Cordes tree of at least, being coached by. Andrea Beatty, former Billiken, went to Missouri State after Ann Cordes left. Is either, I can't remember where she's at now. She's either UTEP or Denver. But yeah, that's she's an assistant, still young, still really young, still really green, but I mean, she's done really well for herself. And I'm not really sure who else is out there coaching. I think those are the only two that have really gotten deep into the coaching or club volleyball, culture. So looking forward to seeing what's going to happen. And I guess kudos to Chris May for making a change here. And I think, of course, when you fire Lisa Stone for average results, you have to fire Kent Miller for below average results. So, I mean,
yeah, I think that's right. I mean, if you're using that as sort of the barometer that we use for our,
it's the precedent that's been set.
That's right. Yeah, she was clearly more successful as the basketball coach than he was as volleyball coach. And yeah, when it comes to time to make that decision, whether it's a contract or it's flaming out of a tournament that you're hosting or whatever the case might be, you're absolutely right that he was certainly not even up to Stone's standard. And it was time.
Were you getting worried for my mental sanity that he wasn't going to be let go?
I was waiting for Kent Miller extended through 2026.
that I may have turned in my podcasting credentials and my Billiken men's basketball season ticket.
I would have loved that. Just for your reaction, but then yeah, we would have had a mediocre program for sure the next 4 years. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what they do with this hire.
Because I mean, it's one of those things that, I mean, while I understand volleyball and I'm like, I kind of understand how things work in the college scene, I don't know, like women's basketball, it was easy to figure it out. Like, who am I, those are names you've heard before with St. Louis volleyball, I don't really know anymore. I know how college volleyball works, but I don't know how. I don't know who's the hot coaches. Who
Right.
Obviously Louisville's really really good right now.
Yeah, they were. I was trying to look up what Ann Cordes was doing now, and her replacement, who took over in 2016, led them to a 32-1 record last year. So clearly their program is in about as good a shape as it could be in. I think she's actually doing like kind of individual coaching or whatever you want to call it, like skill coaching, like or maybe even doing some club stuff too. And the only reason I know that is because a local acquaintance of mine here in Cincinnati has daughters who play competitive volleyball, and one time I saw on his social media his daughter and Ann Cordes, and it was like, thanks Ann for taking some time with our daughter Grace this weekend to work on her skills or whatever. And it was like, oh wow, that's funny. Like it's weird how your worlds kind of collide like that. And I was like, I haven't seen her name pop up in a long time. So yeah, I don't know if she wants to kind of get back into the college coaching game, but it looks like it's been 6 or so years now, and maybe the timing is right. To get back into it, and you never know. But if not, I'm definitely going to be interested to see what direction they go with this hire.
Yeah, I think the only person or the only player from under Ann other than Beatty and Whitney Barron's to coach was Sammy McLeod, who, if you recall, she was with Indiana State for a hot minute. But yeah, that I don't know what they're gonna do. I would love. I have said this on the show. I think is that I'd really love to see like Kalish and Shields be on some sort of committee. Like I mean, even at this point, I would just take the most successful coaches and have them meet with prospective coaches and just see what they think. Because I mean, Chris May's obviously done well in a lot of facets, but I mean, just getting a coach's opinion on another coach, even as far as culture goes, is well worth it. With those two who have been the best at it, I think,
and who are excellent culture fits. He's huge on culture. He talks about it constantly. I think it's probably the main consideration for him. Like somebody who can succeed within our culture, who kind of buys into what the institution, the program are. And who can win and thrive under that specific culture. So yeah, it does make sense to have some of your best representatives of that opining on it, even if they're not necessarily volleyball people.
Fun news out of the baseball program and softball now. Both baseball and softball will now be wearing Nike. Baseball. Softball was wearing DeMarini, which is a subsidiary of Wilson, and then baseball was wearing Wilson. So they're both switching to Nike. We had Logan Moon and oh my God, I'm so sorry. But both assistant coaches have been sharing
Adam Revelette.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Both of them have been sharing the new Nike uniforms, and they are clean so far. I look forward to that. We've only seen the home and the way. I mean, you can kind of tell just based on the fact that one's white, one's blue, and they're both very simple. That it's kind of going to be their main home and away combo. I'll be interested to see the third, fourth, and fifth. With baseball, they get a ton of uniforms because they're traveling for long periods of time, multiple games, 3-4 games a weekend. So, speaking of games. The schedule has been released, Pete.
Yeah, and it looks like a good one. They've got about an even split of home and road games this season, and they start again in Hoover, Alabama, which has kind of become a program tradition at this point. I think it's 4 of their last 5 years. So this one's a 3-game series against Marshall before they head down to Fort Myers, Florida, to take on Minnesota. Their first home series starts on March 3rd against St. Thomas. They've got other home games or series against Northwestern, Lamar, Missouri State, and Western Illinois. and then they go on the road for SIUC and San Jose State. And then they do those kind of split series, home and away, individual games against Lindenwood, SIUE, and Southern Indiana, which is a new addition to D1. They are in Evansville. And then the A10 tournament is at VCU this season. So full schedule is on the official website, and it looks like about even with last year. I'd say it's a pretty competitive schedule.
Yeah, I can't remember the last time we went west. Like, it doesn't seem like we do it often, but at least California
south.
West.
Yeah.
At least California West. So San Jose State's an interesting one.
And it's interesting also to get Northwestern to come to our place, because I know when we've talked to him, Coach Hendrickson has singled Northwestern out as kind of like his model for a Midwestern baseball program in terms of like facilities and resources and things like that. And I know that's a Big Ten school with, with football revenue and whatnot, but I know he really admires the way that they run the program and what they've done with facilities and everything. So
Lindenwood's the same way, I think, too.
Yeah, and we'll do a home and home there to get the very, contrast.
All right, Pete, we're going to have a little fun here. I hope our listeners stuck around. We're going to get to the segment I teased in the opener. Billiken wish list is what we're going to start out with. And these are not items we want to be given for Christmas. This is what we want to see from the Billikens, the Billiken basketball team specifically. We'll kind of go back and forth here. Pete, your first one.
So my first one is for the entire team to start studying Jordan Goodwin NBA game video. Just number one as a reminder, like, here's a dude who's from the St. Louis area, who came to this program, who played for 4 years, who was not drafted, and who is shining right now for the Washington Wizards. And it's not a result of anything outside of the work that he has put into his game and the effort that he puts in every night on the floor. I don't know what better example you could possibly give a team that has looked a little low energy, a little, not great effort lately, than to show them a guy who is off of his performance this season going to get paid in this league, which is the goal for every single player on that floor. Go watch Jordan Goodwin and do your best to do what he's doing, because I don't know what more obvious example you guys could take than to watch him. So that's number one for me, Zach. What about you?
I mentioned two of these. A calm and composed Travis Ford. I want to see him, take it easy with the theatrics, with the writing of officials. So I want to see him just kind of, coach, worry about his team on the floor and not worry about, the officials so much, and maybe not go at players, be a little more positive, I think.
Positivity. That's a good one. Good one for the holidays. Number two, I'll take number two here. This one's a little vague, but I just want to see an energy boost for these guys. Start chasing opportunities for steals, dive for loose balls, go up strong for rebounds, finish in traffic. Don't get caught watching your teammates or watching the other team. Play like you did in the last 4 minutes of that game against Drake, and not, the first 34 or so minutes of that game. That's what I want to see out of this team, whatever it takes to play with that energy. Maybe that kind of is related to my number one, watching Jordan Goodwin. What's number two for you, Zach?
I want to see substitutions in reaction to team performance, not individual performance. So let's not pull Okoro, pull Forrester, just based on individual mistakes, single mistakes, two mistakes. Let these guys are college basketball players in the Division I for a reason. Let them work out the kinks when there are any. It kind of goes along with positivity, I think. Good vibes.
Yeah. This one's not so much a vibes one. It's really, I'm going to put it on one guy. My third one is I want to see Yuri Collins be decisive. I don't want to see him get out there and kind of loosely, indecisively improvise. I want to see him making his reads earlier, trying to get more transition, keep people moving. And I want to see him be more vocal as a leader. We looked really good at points this season early on where I saw him really kind of barking out orders more. I don't see him being as vocal lately. And that's something I kind of like out of him is where he's kind of moving dudes around. I know he's got the ability to really run the show out there. And I just want to see that. I want to see it look like a plan and not just like an idea on the fly. I think he's more effective that way. What's your last one, Zach?
I would like to see 2020, 2021 Javonte Perkins. I know it's a big ask, but I want to see him make an appearance in 2023.
Maybe he looks like that by March. I hope so. Slowly works his way up to that, and then all of a sudden we're late in the season, the team that we kind of thought we were going to be all year.
So that's what we want to see from the Billikens in 2023. Now talking about Christmas, what to get the Billiken fan who has everything. First up is Pete, talk about this item you found. I think it's from a low-key great place to find Billiken stuff.
Yeah, we've been talking about this one lately. It's kind of an unexpected one if you haven't stumbled across it already. Etsy has a surprising amount of like good, unexpected, like real finds for SLU and pretty much any college. One in particular I want to highlight, and I'm stealing this from you because you brought this to my attention a few months ago. It's a sweatshirt, St. Louis U Soccer, and it's the ball that the Billiken is kicking. It says 1965 on it. It looks like it's kind of like he's got it going up on somehow under the crossbar.
Bizarre back posts. Like the back of the net is really bizarre too.
Right. Everything about it, like I guess from this, he's basically putting it into the top of the net, like at a really high angle. But regardless, it's a great looking vintage Billiken with a crown. It's very like kind of mid-century comics in terms of its vibe. And the
crown is falling off.
It's St. Louis U. It's ST period Louis and then U period, which is, I know, not the official way, but you feel like they found this on like the cover of an old program or something. And it's great. And it leads you to like so many other things on Etsy that are just, I've never seen them anywhere else looking for SLU stuff, not eBay, not anywhere, Facebook Marketplace, any of that stuff. Etsy's got some really unique pieces. This one's from a vendor called S3E18 Collective, and the price is $34.99, which is like, even if it's not a super like nice, I don't know what brand they're putting it on, like the graphic on, it's still a unique enough thing for $35 that it's like, I don't know, it seems like it's worth a gamble for me. So yeah, check out Etsy. It's low-key pretty great.
We're gonna stay in Etsy and we're gonna go with mine, which I love these things. I have like a low-key obsession with these St. Louis Billikens poster Chaffetz Arena wall art. So Pete, you're really better at describing these things. So if I don't do it justice, hop on in here. This is it's like if you were to look at a seating chart for Chaffetz Arena, but on a very minimalistic scale. Kind of that. What's that? Is that Helvetica? Is that what that is? I don't know.
It's not Helvetica, but it is kind of a like a late 60s, early 70s kind of thing, like a font that you would find in public spaces. So almost like the signage you would find inside an arena, like, I don't know, like Busch Stadium not long after it opened, Busch Stadium 2, the circular one. it's that kind of it's very two-tone, and it's just like a classic mid-century public, like you would see on like public transit or in an arena or something like that. That kind of style. It's really cool. It's got a really, I don't know. I love it. It's a little incongruous with the timing of Chaifetz Arena, but oh man, these look really cool.
Yeah, and it comes unframed. Depending on the size, you can be spending anywhere from $17.22 to $56.09. That's like, it's not bad. It's $17.22, $56.09, depending on how much you love the Billiken Fan in your life. It can be based on the size of the poster. But yeah, no, I love it. It comes in black on white, blue on white, white on blue, and blue on black. Just really cool stuff.
They all look great, and they would look good in just about any space too. If you've got kind of like if your living space is a little more modern, or if it's a little like kind of clean, traditional, I think these would look good in just about any spot. They're not like tacky man cave kind of stuff. Which leads me into my next one as well. There are like genuinely great old vintage pennants all over eBay and other places like it online. And the one I've got highlighted here is a 1940s vintage SIUE pennant. It's another one, St. Louis U. I don't know. Maybe I'm just kind of into that motif, the ST period Louis U. And it's just like a high quality old pennant. It's from Chicago Pennant Company out of Chicago, Illinois. It's like a thick felt with like a the woven kind of somewhat gothic looking St. Louis U on there. It's what did that say? 100% wool.
Yeah, Pete, tell them how much it retailed for.
Originally, what is that? 80. It's upside
That's 80
down.
cents, baby.
80 cents. So
That's
there you
so
go.
awesome. I don't know why I find that the coolest part of
It
the
originally retailed for 80 cents, and now you can have it for over 100 times that amount. But there are a lot of other pennants out there, there's a huge pennant culture. I think there's a shop in Buffalo, New York, I want to say, that's like that is just like devoted to vintage pennants. And so there's definitely a community out there of people who are really pennant enthusiasts, and I've always kind of loved the look of them. And going in with my last comment on your piece, these are the kind of thing you can kind of stick anywhere. You could put this in your office or just about anywhere, and it looks cool, and it's historic, and it's got like that element of it, and it's not the least bit tacky. It just looks nice in a lot of different spaces. So yeah, go check out what old pennants you can find online, and these are like an easy to ship, easy to find, great gift for the Billiken in your life.
I think one thing I've noticed about us is we have a similar like style of things we like, especially design wise. And this next one kind of goes hand in hand with that first Etsy shirt. And I had never seen this Billiken before. It is preposterous, and I'm super excited to unveil this one right now. Yes, it is the St. Louis University Billikens t-shirt designed and sold by Sombrero Inc. And the description is, "What is a Billiken anyhow?" Which is funny. But it's from tpublic.com. It retails for $14 right now. You can get it in white, cream, light blue, or heather gray, which I think the heather gray is gorgeous.
They all look awesome. The cream one that you started on looks great too.
I need this shirt. It's so cool. Yeah, it's on sale for $14, down from $22, and you can get this in a hoodie, kids t-shirt, or a tote bag. If you're going to a school to read to them, you can put the books in this. I don't know. That's always what I remembered about.
You said you've never seen this Billiken before. How would you describe this thing?
I have a buddy who's son makes that face. It's very funny. I don't know. It just looks like him. I would say it's like, it is, the Japanese Billiken that we see on that, like, it's like, I don't know what, there's a name for it. It's like a pop art Japanese Billiken. It's always like, yeah, it looks like a younger version of the Billiken. It's on the Japanese, I don't know how to describe it, but I would say it's like that, but like American, and looks like it plays football.
It's got like kind of a youthful vibe, but kind of an old man face.
Yes. Oh, it is Dennis Gates. It is the Dennis Gates Billiken. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm talking about. But it's inverse because Dennis Gates' head looks old, but his face looks young. This one kind of like looks young in the head, but the face is a little older.
Right.
Yeah. No, it says it's kind of in an arch too. Like the arch font is almost a perfect like representation of the St. Louis arch in a way.
Yeah, this shirt is super cool.
Oh man. Your last one, Pete. You didn't give me a link, but I just went through and kind of pulled up the results on eBay for this one.
Yeah, so this one is like there are a lot of these online. They're hand carved
and they're super inexpensive.
They're not expensive. It is depending on what material you get them on, but there are a lot of Native American, Native Alaskan, specifically people who carve by hand Billikens, and they'll either do it out of wood, which are generally the least expensive. They will carve them out of moose bone, or sometimes you'll find them out of a walrus tusk, which I don't know if you would call that ivory or night. I don't know. I don't know what constitutes ivory, but so they're always a little, especially like if they're a moose bone or a walrus tusk, they're a little curved. They come to a point. These are like, I don't know, these are like the original Billikens, you know what I mean? Like it's this old, clearly like it has some historical roots in Alaska and Japan. It's kind of a pan-Pacific sort of mythology that it comes from, and SIUE clearly stole it from somewhere in that Pacific sort of culture. And I don't know, the fact that these are still being made by hand, there are a lot of them in a few different materials. They're old. To me, it would be one of those things. I've never been to Alaska and Hawaii, the only two states I've never been to. And I've always told myself, like, whenever I get up there, I'm going to find like a legit, like, somebody who legitimately makes these and is like great at them and they're authentic and everything. One of the things I learned about in New Mexico is there's a lot of like fake Native American art online, and you got to be really careful where you buy things. So I didn't want to necessarily vouch for any specific vendor or artist or anything at the moment, but I think that there are probably good and bad places to get these online. But it's one of those that's like, it's not a SIUE thing. It's not a SIUE Billiken. It's an actual hand carved Billiken, and there are a ton of them out there. And it's one of those that's like kind of a deep cut. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not branded merch of our university, but it's like, I don't know.
It's like a thing again. There's a theme here, except for this last one that I'm about to pull out, is that it's very subtle. Everything we've shown as far as decor is subtle.
Yeah, like if there were one of these on your desk or something like that. It's not a bobblehead. It's an actual hand carved native piece of art, and that's but it's still, it's a subtle reference to your university. So I don't know. That's what I like about it. And given the origins and mythology behind our mascot, there aren't many other schools who can have sort of, that kind of thing with their mascot, which I think is pretty cool.
This one is the inner child in Zach is coming out for this one. I don't even know if you can tell what it is yet, but it is this. It's Papa Shot, baby.
I didn't look at this ahead of time. It's
Papa Shot. Yes, Victory Tailgate. I can semi-vouch for quality. I've kind of worn out the Billiken yoga mat that I own. Like it is wearing down quickly. But it does come out, at least it gets to you nice. I know that. But if you've got a kid who loves the Billikens, or you're just a kid at heart, this Papa Shot game is, you got to really love the Billiken fan in your life for this one though, Pete.
It's $249.99. Victory Tailgate, aren't they the ones who do the cornhole boards?
Yes.
Bags, as our friends in Chicago might say. Yeah, and those are, I've seen their work on those, and they're pretty nice. Those always seem to come out pretty well, the ones that I've seen for cornhole, which is like the official sport of Cincinnati. So I do see
the only
those
problem
everywhere.
with Victory Tailgate is that they offer beer pong tables. And I don't really even play beer pong. But I'd really like a long table that's looks like a Billiken basketball court. Like for, again, it's a tailgate table, but I'd like to have one for vacation and stuff. So
there's the shop custom tab up there where I bet you could probably come up with something slew specific for in the table department.
It's so interesting. I mean, you could, here it is. The tailgate table.
Tailgate foldable.
Yeah.
Tailgate table.
They have everything. I mean, they got, yard dominoes, yard dice, pop-up table, pop-up ping pong table. They got actual ping pong tables. Like I said, they got yoga mats, bags, tumble towers, aka Jenga. It's wild. You can literally outfit your entire backyard with Billiken stuff on Victory Tailgate. But it's retails for $249. It's 92.5 inches in length, 45 inches in width, and 90 inches in height. But that'll do it for our what to get the Billiken fan in your life for Christmas.
Yeah, I think that would be a pretty nice Christmas. Pretty much anything that we just listed here. We've got everything from stocking stuffers to wall art to something that would take up a pretty good corner of your basement there.
Well, Pete,
or garage.
Anything we forgot before we get out of here?
No, Zach, I think we covered it all. Just go watch Jordan Goodwin in the NBA because, we're going to have a little more downtime between games in the men's and women's basketball schedules this winter. Over break, you just play fewer games. So watch as much Jordan as you can because he's playing a lot for the Wizards. That's all I ask of our Billiken faithful out there.
Well, that wraps up the week in Billiken Athletics. Follow us on Twitter at Midtown Mad Pod, at Peter is a tweeter, at Zach Miller MMP, and on Instagram at Midtown Mad Pod. Of course, if you have any suggestions, send them our way, whether it be on Twitter, in our YouTube comments. Go subscribe to the show on all platforms if you haven't yet. Reviews are great too. 5 stars, as well as a written review would be awesome. As always, Pete, go Bills.
Go Bills.